MBAUniverse.com, and we would be welcoming our guests today. I have with me Ark Srinivas, as you can see, and without wasting too much of time, because I'm sure you're all waiting for his analysis. He's the National MBA Preparation Head of Career Launcher. And immediately after he's spoken for about 15 minutes, we will have Himangshu Matia, who's the Program Director of IMS Learning. And then we will have other speakers following. So please brace yourself, get a hot cup of tea or coffee, and let's get started with CAT analysis on MBAUniverse.com, which is India's #1 portal. Now, before I get Arks to talk about his analysis, let me share with you what happened today morning. As you probably know, there are 76 questions. There are 76 questions in CAT, and I believe this is something that was predicted pretty much, and that's the number that Arks and both Himang have been talking about. So this is the program agenda for today. I will not get into more details of it, but so total duration was 120 minutes. Total number of questions is 76. We had 22 non-MCQs today, and very briefly in terms of an overview, we had 26 questions in VARC, 24 questions in DILR, and 26 questions in Quant. And these are the inputs that Professor Agarwal, who's the editor of MBAUniverse.com, has filed in. He also took the paper this morning. Overall difficulty level in terms of what he says is that the paper was lengthy, but perhaps moderately difficult. You will hear both Arks and Hemang on that. And nature of questions were not too difficult. More we have posted on MBAUniverse.com. You can perhaps have a look. So with this short introduction, and in the interest of time, over to you, Srinivas ji. Please share your perspective on what you've gathered.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Amit ji, and welcome to all of you who are obviously looking at what should we look at for the CAT Slot 1 and CAT 2020. I'm going to divide that into 4 sets or 4 divisions. The first one is, of course, let me look at verbal RC, then DILR, then Quant, and then we'll look at the overall section and what to expect at the end of the day. Now, if you look at VARC, as Mr. Agarwal has said, there are 26 questions. Whenever you have 4 sets of RC, it's not an easy thing, given that there are only 40 minutes. Unlike in previous years, last 5 years, there were 5 RCs, but there were 60 minutes. That makes VARC lengthy. I'm not necessarily saying difficult, but definitely lengthy. So it doesn't matter if it is difficult if it is not difficult, as long as it's lengthy. I think the cutoffs will come down drastically. If last year, for example, we believe that we knew that about 65, 66 was the 99 percentile, this year, 2-3 things happened. One, the para summary questions were also a lot more trickier. There were passages, while the passages were not very difficult, unlike last year where we had one difficult passage, the questions were not straightforward. In fact, a lot more inference-based questions were there, where 2 choices apparently were very, very close. That brings me to tell you that our expectation for a 99 percentile in verbal will not be more than 40-42 marks out of 78. That's like, remember, and I'm going to give you a real bombshell by the time I come to Quant. Probably this is the history of CAT, that a verbal cutoff and a verbal 99 percentile may not be the highest as compared to the other 2 sections. So that's what the predictions are. That's what the expectations are, given what the paper has been. DILR. Now, when I come to DILR had 24 questions, right? In fact, 26 and 24 is exactly what we predicted in terms of VARC and DILR, and that's what exactly CAT 2020 has been also. But given that there were 5 sets, instead of 6 sets into 4, there were 5 sets. And that makes it ideally it should have become easier, but the feedback that has come in is it is very, very difficult to do more than 3 sets, especially because there was one set of set theory which was a 4-element set theory, 4-parameter set theory. Now either people do it or they don't do it. That's one. Second thing is on averages and mixtures. Thank you. So the second one is about, while the DI sets were nice, there were all lots of things with averages concepts. Averages concepts across the world, except for some few people, is difficult too. Except for one set which appeared to be very easily solvable. Out of the other 4 sets, any feedback that we have got from students as well as the people who have written, it appears that anybody touching 12 to 14 questions attempts itself will be fantastic in DILR. That's kind of should be very reassuring. Maybe around 32 marks will be more than sufficient to get a 99 percentile in DILR. And that's something very good. And it is, which also means that it is probably as tough as 2018 paper or slightly more tougher. I think the entire story is because of 40 minutes. But I said I will come out with a bombshell, which is what quantitative ability is. If I were to look at last 5 years papers and then think about how I connect it with this year's CAT 2020 Quant, I think it is more like the CAT 2017, which had a lot of easy questions. Around 10 to 11 questions were arithmetic itself, while there were a lot of algebra, 8, 9, but logarithms questions, straightforward logarithms questions kind of made it easier. And if you have some basic idea of logarithms and a little bit of arithmetic, and arithmetic also was not difficult. Time, speed and distance was given all right, but they were straightforward linear questions. And that is where we come down to saying that maybe this year, out of all the 3 sections, quantitative abilities 99 percentile will be as close to 50 as possible. It could be 50 out of 78 than probably lesser than this. In that sense of the word, as I said, in the history of CAT itself, the quant 99 percentile will be higher than your verbal RC. That is what our prediction says. And the last part of it is overall. If 50 is what we are predicting for quant, 30-32 for DI, and 40-42 for verbal for the 99 percentile mark, we are now saying that that's about 120-122 marks. 122 marks will be 99.5 percentile. That is what our expectation is, which means 110 or even less than that will be your 99% for everybody in this. So in that sense, this particular paper will come across as a slightly difficult paper overall. While the quant, when people came out of the exam, they were very happy. I'm specifically because it was quant that it was the last section. But when I look at it for the entire overall paper, I don't think it was as easy as it appeared to be. That's my take, Amit ji. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Srinivas ji. Just to hear you one more time, you said for 99 percentile, can you repeat what you said for verbal?
Verbal will be in the 40 to 42 range, 40 marks to 42 marks.
Right.
For DILR, it will be 30 to 32 marks for 99 percentile.
Right.
And for quantitative ability, it could be between 47 to 50.
Right. And overall, 120 to 122
will be 99.5 percentile.
Right.
And 99 percentile will be somewhere between 106, 105 to 110.
Right. And how would you benchmark this? This is my last question. How would you benchmark this with, let's say, last year's paper?
I think if you look at the percentages wise, it will be more tougher than the last year's paper. Because if you remember, 155 mark was 99 percentile last year out of the 300 mark. That is 52%. This year, what I am saying is, it will be less than 48%. I mean, less than 50% clearly. So 48% mark will give you a 99 percentile, which means it was definitely overall wise tougher. I'm again saying this, when people come out of it, they'll feel, acha, easy paper tha. The reason why they will say it is because after VARC and DILR, 2 sets which were not so easy, when quant was easy for them, I think, the recency effect will be there. it was easy kind of things, and they will forget that verbal and DI would have been a little more of a tougher ones. So, but if I look at the entire thing, it is slightly more, not slightly, definitely tougher than the last year's paper, CAT 2019.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Srinivas ji. I believe you're taking the exam in the afternoon, and
No,
we
I
are
have taken at 4:30, but I'm also taking into other things also, Amit ji.
sure.
So I
Sure.
am there at the second slot also. I'll be taking up immediately after this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Right, and I would like to say hi to Hemang. Hi Hemang, how are
Hi,
you?
hi. How are you, sir?
बहुत बढ़िया यार. A long time, but we will catch up sometime soon.
Yeah. 2 days are there. We'll keep meeting.
Okay, bye Hemang.
Bye,
you.
bye, sir. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll be in touch. With this,
Yes.
I hope all of you have heard one of the top CAT experts, CAT mentors in the country, his analysis, his predictions for the first time on MBAUniverse.com, and he said very clearly what is it. I mean, he believes that the paper is tougher than previous years, and if you've done reasonably well, you will be having a much better chance to score high. So with this, I am delighted to welcome Himang Matia, who is the, as you know, program director of IMS Learning, himself who takes great pride in mentoring CAT students. So thank you very much, Himang. And over to you for your analysis of today's CAT paper.
Hi, Amit ji. Thank you so much for inviting me on MBA Universe. Good morning to all the CAT aspirants. I'm assuming a lot of you would have your CAT in slot 2 and slot 3. So you are waiting for the structure of the exam. So let me quickly repeat. Some of you might have already heard it. So let me go section wise. So when I look at VARC, it had 26 questions, correct? So there were a total of 4 RCs. Initial reactions are it is very equivalent or slightly tougher than CAT 2019. So verbal continues to be on the difficult side, and with 4 RCs, 40 minutes, the clock, managing the clock is a challenge, correct? Out of the 8 VA questions, they had 3 parajumble questions, 2 odd man out questions, and 3 summary questions. So the good news is no grammar, no vocab. They continue to the traditional VA questions. So 4 RCs and 8 VA questions makes it a total of 26, correct? And equal or slightly tougher than CAT 2019 is our first take on the same. When it comes to DLR, there were 5 sets, 2 sets of 6 questions each, and 3 sets of 4 questions each, makes it a total of 24. Now the interesting thing here is the element of selection becomes critical. Some of us will be tempted by 6 questions. So if I do 2 sets versus 3 sets here of 4 questions each, I am done. But the 6 sets also might mean that it is a little more difficult to crack, right? So DLR, I would say again, equal or slightly more difficult as compared to CAT 2019. That would be our estimate for DLR sections. So you have 5 sets. My advice to all the CAT aspirants would be take a couple of minutes to go through all the 5 sets, pick up the 3 sets that you think you will be able to do, and then maybe if you can manage the 4th one, nothing like it. Our view has always been that if you can crack 3 sets well, you would very easily cross that 90-95 percentile mark that most people would want to cross, right? And coming to quant, yes, 26 questions, thankfully a little easier as compared to the previous years. A lot of direct application questions. Arithmetic dominated the section with about 10 questions from arithmetic module. So that's good news for most people. And then algebra was obviously the second most important module. There were a few questions on logarithms too also, which were put in, right? So yes, quant is a good, I would say, surprise, positive surprise for everybody, it being simple, right? So overall, VA, RC and DLR slightly more difficult or equal to last year, and quant definitely on the easier side would be our take, Aminji, for the first slot of CAT 2020.
Perfect. Thank you. What would be your advice to students who will be taking the slot 3 based on understanding of this?
So I think they have time. So they know the question structure now. Correct. So in a mind, so they can go to the mocks that follow in the mind. Obviously, don't take a real mock now. It will be like a nasty surprise. But you can just fine tune your strategies for mocks that were similar to the one that CAT had. So I remember a lot of SimCats had the same pattern: 4 RCs, 5 DILR sets, etc. So you can just look at how did you manage those and accordingly plan for it. Okay, so once you already know that VRC and LRDR are equivalent to last year, you know what's in store, and quant you can be in the pinch hitting mode and maybe look for 1 or 2 extra attempts as compared to what you would generally do. But final advice would be don't think change too much last moment, last day. The broad strategy should remain the same. Just fine tune it for the new information that is coming up. That would be my advice. Trying to change too many things in the last minute is definitely something that we would not advise any of our students.
Right. And overall, you would say that the paper is slightly more difficult than last year. Would that be?
Yes. Yeah, that would be a fair assessment. So in terms of percentage of total marks, the 99, the 97 percentile should fall slightly. So what happens is when quant becomes simpler, a lot of students who are very good at quant tend to compensate a little bit for VLR and DI there. So the fall will be slight, but I think there will be a fall in the overall cutoff for the 99 and the 97 and the 90 percentile marks for sure.
So what
the cutoff will? Yeah. Go on, Amit sir. Amit ji.
Thank you. What would be your guesstimate at this point in time for 99 percentile?
It will be very close to 105 to 110 mark scenario. Correct. Our details will come out at about 12 noon with a far more predictive analytics put in.
Sure.
First take would be about 105 to 110 range. That's what I would say is a good range.
Perfect.
And we also have to remember the first slot students typically take that extra element because for them it was a surprise. So their performance tends to be upscaled when the scale scores are released during the CAT results, right? So for slot 2, these numbers might change marginally, but for slot 1, I think this would be my number that I just gave you.
Right, and these are pretty much in line with what you had earlier predicted. You were talking about 75 questions. So the number
yes. Yeah. So in fact, most of our mocks had this breakup of 26, 24, 26 because that's what we thought would be the most likely cutoff. So I'm happy that it's not a major surprise there. The only surprise I think for some candidates would be the uneven distribution of questions for the DILR sets. So that's the only element that might be a minor surprise. The rest of the things are okay. And one small thing, a lot of students are pretty anxious about the process, of what's happening because COVID scenario, a lot of people are a little upset. I thought I'll just spare a few seconds to comment on that if you don't mind, Amitji.
Absolutely, please. That's very helpful.
Yeah. So you are supposed to have your gloves on and your mask on while you enter the test center. A lot of centers are not allowing belts also inside the test center. Once you start the test, you can have the gloves off. The mask has to stay on. Correct. So don't worry too much about how will I write with my gloves on, etc. You are allowed to have your gloves on, but your gloves off, but your mask has to be on, right? So I think that is pretty much required given the current scenario. So that's what is happening across the center. A lot of you have been given the slots, the exact time slots you need to reach. So make sure you reach around that time so that we help manage the COVID situation and we are with the CAT authorities on that.
Are your students sharing any other experience that is worthy of sharing with the community?
Very similar things they are mentioning. I think there is some discussion around the number of theta questions. So just for that level of detail, I would say for verbal it is 5 questions. So the parajumbles and odd man out are theta questions. DLR there are 6 questions in theta, and quant 6 to 8 is the number of theta questions. So again, no major surprises there.
Perfect. Thank you. So with this, thank you so much, Himangshu. for sharing.
Thank you, Amit ji. Always a pleasure being with you and with MBA.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All the best to the CAT aspirants. Do well, stay calm. That would be my advice.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And let me tell you before we close this session, we will be making this live again at 3 o'clock and 7 o'clock. So please join us at those times so that we are able to give you more insights into the CAT exam. With this, we will close the session. Please log on to MBAUniverse.com. Please stay logged on, and we will be sharing with you more details about and the color of the exam with inputs from IMS very, very shortly on our platform. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.